So the View's days, if you ask me, seem to be pretty numbered. I mean, I think that some of those shows on MSNBC are clearly numbered, but The View is going through a special sort of pain onto its own. And you can see it playing out, if you would, on live TV. For some of you who joined the show yesterday, you may have caught this clip. It's just 10 seconds, but it's pretty epic.
You got to go to private school.
Because nobody can figure out what's being said here right now.
So Whoopi's getting a little frustrated. You know, she's been going through a lot. Look who won the election. She's got to deal with the guy whose name she doesn't like to say. And when she does say his name, she literally spits. So, yeah, you know, they got in a little bit of a tussle, you see, over the new head of the Department of Education because they don't think she's qualified. I mean, forget the fact that the woman built a business from scratch. I mean, Linda McMahon, the real deal. She used to run the Small Business Association.
You're simply...
I love those clips. So Linda McMahon started the WWF or the WWE. That's actually her daughter because her daughter became a performer there too. And she ran the business and she went on to run Small Business Association in the Trump administration. And now she's going to run the Department of Education. And that's not sitting well with the ladies on The View.
That they fund students who are already attending private schools. So people with money get those vouchers, use the vouchers to pay less for their private schools, and their kids go on to do well. Where do you get the money from vouchers? You pull those money from those poor schools, poor schools.
I don't see it.
Let me just finish this. So wealthy families are overwhelmingly the recipients of school voucher tax credits. I'm not making this up. This has been studied. In 2020, a 2020 study found that only about half of states with voucher programs require teachers to have a bachelor's degree, require teachers to have training, require teachers to have licensing, require participating private schools.
If I may get in, just to make it a conversation.
But because I have children and because I looked at
I went to public school. I believe you got to go to private school.
There is zero statistical significance.
You got to go to private school.
Because nobody can figure out what's being said here right now. No, there is no last thing right now. We're going to go to break, and then we're going to come back.
Yes.
Because you can't, what's happening is no one can hear anything anyone is saying, so everybody has to
on it so we can talk.
Well,
that
you know,
goes for you too, my dear.
That's for a word, and she's been talking for 3 minutes.
You took the first hearing.
Wow. So again, like tension is high. And I think they're really worried about losing their jobs because I think Disney's going to get rid of this thing. They're looking over there at Comcast saying, oh, you guys actually have a clue. I mean, that was one day. Here's another day this week, another cat fight, another one, believe it or not. I mean, they just can't seem to function there over at The View.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class? I mean, you know, again, I got my popcorn. I don't know why people did what they did. I see all these reasons, and so, okay. Time will tell. But what do y'all think?
I just, you know, I know that as a country, it's very difficult for people to believe that racism and misogyny, they're just alive and well. I think that we don't want to think that about ourselves, our neighbors, our friends. But it's my lived experience tells me that it does still exist, even if your lived experience doesn't tell you that it exists. And you know, the facts support that. I think we have a graph. If you look at there's a clear racial divide in who voted for Trump as opposed to who voted for Kamala Harris. It's very clear. It's not only clear by race, but it's also clear by education. And so the notion somehow that is not true. This is by education. Those who attended college voted for her at a higher degree than those that didn't.
But I think
I've said that.
his point.
Let me just finish. And so I've said that before, and there was so much backlash because I think it's an uncomfortable, inconvenient truth about this country.
But his whole point is they didn't vote for him because of racism and misogyny. They voted for him because they felt like, I think the biggest common denominator in this election is people want a good life and ability to provide for their family.
Well,
and whether we agree or not with Donald Trump's plans,
Black people
they thought that he was reflective.
One of the poorest demographics in this country, but they voted for Kamala Harris.
But there was a split, and more of them voted for Donald Trump than had historically. I think that there's such a desire. If you really think the vast majority of this country voted because of racism and misogyny.
I didn't
You're
say the
missing
vast-
it. Most of my family,
a
lot of my family doesn't have college degrees.
But the stats are the stats.
But that's not, it doesn't say I voted for Donald Trump because of racism. That's not, let me just ask, what stat are you talking about?
Let me just dissect the two.
Yes, you can. There's a lot
Hold
more
on,
to this.
hold on.
Let me just,
Calm down. Everybody just take a breath. Take a breath.
Well,
Take a beat.
well, let me jump in here because I think, Sonny, what you say is valid, and I think absolutely that is part of the problem. But when we hang our hat on that's the only problem, or
No
the
one's
main,
saying it's the only.
I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying the backlash is that when people hang their hat on that being the only reason, any criticism of Vice President Harris must be because she's a woman or she's black. I voted for, thank you, I voted for Hillary Clinton, not because she was a woman, she was the most qualified. I voted for Vice President Kamala Harris because more of my values fell in line with what she stood for. So all of that can be true. There is something here to the socioeconomic class, though, that is crossing racial divide in academic and education, too. Americans with a college degree 30 years ago were roughly 20% of the population and held the same percentage of household wealth as those without a degree. Yeah. 30 years later, this is important, Americans with a college degree account for 38% of the population and 73% of the household wealth. The haves and the have-nots have gone so far apart that they are rising up right now, and they cross every line of our democracy.
Okay, can I...
Yeah, you know, it's wild, right? It's really, really wild. I'm just looking at some of your comments here in real time, and there's this sense that, you know, they think they're somehow better than us. And it's true, because when I played a different clip yesterday, they're talking about how basically it's just the poor, uneducated folks. I mean, Bill Clinton was saying this too in a new interview with MSNBC, that it's just the poor, uneducated people that somehow are buying whatever Trump's selling. And I'm like, actually, I mean, Elon Musk is pretty smart, just saying, and he's certainly not poor. He's the richest man in the world, and he's certainly not uneducated. Okay? Like, you guys need to get over yourselves. The uppity snobbery, the arrogance that is on full display on ABC, on all the main networks, and MSNBC. So yeah, I love that Elon Musk is tweeting about, why not go and buy ABC as well? I mean, Elon, while you're at it, right? Maybe you can roll them all up. You get the broadcast network that way, and then you get the cable networks that way. I'm just thinking, unless it's an antitrust thing, that might actually kind of work. This show, though, is so completely out of touch with reality. I don't know how they have any viewers. I'm pretty sure that Fox on cable beats them in the middle of I know they did when I was there. I would do that outnumbered show and we'd always beat them. But they don't understand that they're not relevant anymore. They're like the team over at MSNBC. They're all looking at themselves saying, why does anything else or anyone else matter?
This seems like an easy choice to us here.
What is wrong with these people? Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, if I knew the answer, I would implement it immediately, right? And reverse this. But we have to compete. I mean, the answer is we don't know how to compete with these social media basket making influencers or whatever, but we have to, and so we've got to figure out ways to do it, and maybe we make our own 20-second snippets, and we meet viewers where they are, we meet news consumers where they are, because
so this is Morning Joe, MSNBC, trying to figure out why it is that they don't have more influence. They can't seem to understand this. And by the way, the same conversation is going on The View. The View leaders are trying to figure out, why aren't we relevant anymore? Why don't we matter? We used to be it, right? We were everything. And somehow we're not. Who's this guy, Joe Rogan? What are these podcasts? What are these influencers? What is this Twitter thing taking over? X these days. Here's Joy Behar lamenting it all, trying desperately to make herself sound relevant by working Joe Rogan into the equation. Watch.
That's why people like our show, because they know that we are checked by ABC News. But
We're checked by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if we're wrong, we have, the legal note here.
You've been legal.
But we went from Walter Cronkite basically to this guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes
in dragons?
He believes in dragons.
Did you triple source that?
Yes, I did. And he also thinks that dragons, like, I guess, like dinosaur-y type of animals, roamed the earth when people did. So this is the type of really, really bad information that's going out there.
Well, in defense, there are some really good news.
It's possible that Donald Trump did roam the earth when dinosaurs were here.
There are.
Okay, so she doesn't know who Joe Rogan is. She's like, oh, he believes in dinosaurs, whatever. I love this. So Joe Rogan had the most epic response ever to Joy Reid. He doubled down on the whole thing. He wrote on his Twitter, dragon believer. So this is an article from Daily Mail. While he admitted that fire-breathing dragons probably never existed, Rogan added that there probably was a really dangerous reptile that they called dragons. The question is whether they actually flew. So apparently on his show, he was talking about how, like, throughout history, in mythology, etc., you see these dragon-like figures. And he's trying to figure out, like, why they always existed. If, like, you're going back thousands and thousands of years, like, people, they didn't just imagine these, right? Like, maybe they had actually seen something similar. And she's flipping out about that. Like, Joy Behar is trying to discredit him because he's actually making an interesting observation. Like, how would you know that these things existed that long ago, given that you didn't have the scientific wherewithal to, you know, be doing fossil searches and that kind of thing? So it's an interesting point he made, probably part of a much larger discussion, and she's going to extract that and somehow say that, no, she's the one who's right because they have ABC News, like ABC News is the be-all, end-all. I'm sorry, it's not. It's certainly not, right? We've lost that. They are not relevant anymore. They're not relevant on MSNBC. They're not relevant at NBC, CBS, ABC, any of these places. It's why they are all being spun off or sold.